Welcome. Thanks for joining. So what's the worst act that a wife can do to a husband? Or what is the wickedness act that a wife can do to a husband? And probably vice versa. But today I am going to be focusing on the point of view of the husband. So the Bible says this: the wife hath not power of her own body, but the husband. And likewise also the husband hath not power of his own body, but the wife. It goes on to say, defraud he not one the other, except it be with consent for a time, that he may give yourselves to fasting and prayer, and come together again, that Satan tempt you not for your incontinency. And if you were to also read it in the New King James Version, that was the King James Version, it says, the wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. And likewise, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. Do not deprive. So instead of using the word defraud, as in the King James Version, in the New King James Version, it says, do not deprive one another except with consent for a time, that you may give yourselves to fasting and prayer, and come together again, so that Satan does not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. So it is speaking to self-control here. And the reality is, if you go down to verses 9 or 8 to 9, it says, but I say to the unmarried and to the widows, it is good for them if they remain even as I am. But if they cannot exercise self-control, let them marry. For it is better to marry than to burn with passion. And if we were to read that in the King James Version, it says, I say therefore to the unmarried and the widows, it is good for them if they abide even as I. But if they cannot contain, let them marry. For it is better to marry than to burn. So the reality is, especially from a religious point of view, especially in the reality of Christians, and especially in many religions, many persons, one of the reasons why they rush into marriage, especially in religions, in the Christian religion, one of the big influential reasons is not to partake in fornication. And as Paul as well started off by saying in verse 2, nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband. So to avoid fornication, to have your wife in a legal way, influences your decision to want to get married. That is the reality. Paul says, but if they cannot contain, let them marry, for it is better to marry than to burn. So the toughest act, or the toughest situation that a wife can put her husband in is when she puts him in a position where she deprives him of sex. The reality is this: men tend to want sex more than women. Most of the time that is the case. That's one of the main things that a man usually wants from his wife. And when a woman puts a man in a situation where she starts depriving him of that, that's a tough situation. And that for me is one of the wickedest acts that a wife can do to her husband. And deprive, what do I mean by deprive? I mean months in a marriage in the same house and not having intercourse with your husband. It's one of the toughest situations that you can ever put a man in. Some persons will say, leave. Why not leave that marriage? So the reality is, The truth is, when you enter into your marriage vows, you normally say, until death do us part. And I want to submit to you that that statement actually aligns to the Bible. The Bible says that the wife is bound to her husband as long as he liveth, but if he be dead, she's allowed to marry again. That is the only reason when two people come to live together in marriage and starts to have sex, after that, the marriage is bounded. They are bounded to each other. After that, even if your wife or the husband commits adultery against the person, still bound to that person until the day either of you dies. So that what is being thrown around, that hey, fornication or adultery is a cause that will allow someone to be able to divorce or marry, that is not true. And you can watch this video up there that explains this in so much detail. But imagine being in a relationship with a man that does not believe in divorce and remarriage, believe in being committed to you for the rest of his life, being committed to that one woman who is willing to fix his faults in order to save his marriage, because he believes that, hey, I'm bound to this person until the day I die, and I want to work things out with this person. I don't want to touch anybody else because I believe it is a life and death situation. If I'm put in this position, I can go to hell if I'm to touch another woman. If I'm to marry again, I can go to hell. Someone that has that conviction and is now placed in a position, a situation where you're in a sexless situation, where you believe that your entire sexual life is based on this one person that you trust, that you came into a relationship with. Based on what I'm hearing, there are lots of persons that are in sexless marriages. What is a sexless marriage? Months without being able to touch your partner, being able to only touch your partner maybe once per month. That's tough. Or being placed in a separated situation in the same house, not being able to touch your partner. That's tough. Your entire sexual life is based on this one person. And if this person stopped giving it to you, if you touch someone else, you risk committing adultery against this person, against God, and going to hell if you die in that situation. Imagine having that conviction. It makes it one of the toughest situations that you can ever put someone in. A woman, a wife, can literally set up a man for a life in hell. That's why it says this in verse 5 towards the end. And come together again, that Satan tempt you not for your incontinency. Incontinency, as we see here, it means lack of self-control. It's now a body versus spirit situation, and your body is yearning for your wife, is yearning for, desiring what it is used to, and being placed in a position now where you cannot have that. It is one of the toughest situations that a human being can be placed in, especially when that human being is convicted that, hey, this is the only person that I'm supposed to have for the rest of my life. It's the toughest situation. And this is the worst act that you can put a man in, especially a man, as I say, that does not believe in divorce and marriage. It's the toughest situation. Do you agree with me? Don't say, hey, just find another person and move on. No, it doesn't work like that. Marriage is a lifetime decision. It's a lifetime covenant with God. The wife is bound to her husband as long as he liveth. But if the husband be dead, she's free from the law of marriage. That's what the Bible teaches. The husband is not allowed to divorce his wife, period. If she separates, she's supposed to stay by herself and be reconciled to her husband. He's supposed to be waiting on his wife to come back to him. It's a tough situation to be in. Tough situation. Many persons do not know these things. And persons right now would have just simply just moved on, thinking it's a win situation, but actually, it could mean that you are actually on your way to hell. It's a tough situation. It's one of the toughest situations. Yes, it's unfortunate that persons married for the wrong reasons. Because persons literally married just because, hey, they are burning and they just want a sexual partner, especially Christians. Other persons enter for the wrong reason, then the relationship ends up in divorce, ends up in separation. It's one of the toughest situations for persons to be in. So I'm suggesting to you all out there, try to work out your marriages. Work out your relationship. If you have not gotten married as yet, do not rush. Do not rush into it just for sex. It's one of the toughest situations to be in. The Satan will step in and tempt you, because that's literally what Paul was saying here. Do not keep the bodies of each other away from each other for too long, because Satan is going to tempt in and tempt with evil, because that's what he does. Paul knows this. So do not keep yourselves from each other for too long, because once that happens, temptation is going to come. Because your body will desire what it is used to. It is going to come and it's going to make it tough, especially for religious Christian persons or any other religion that you're in, and you are convicted by this belief. It's tough. It's tough. Tough. Save yourselves from hell. Save yourselves from this difficult situation where you could end up in a life and death situation. If you're married already, have not separated, have not divorced, try to work it out. That's my recommendation. Could be a life and death situation. It's the toughest situation to put either person in. Try to work it out. That's my recommendation. If you are watching this channel for the first time or not, I recommend that you hit that subscribe button below and hit that bell so that you can be notified when we release these life-changing videos. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.